Next is the cast off. Set the front and back lock to N. Take color 1 into the lock. Knit 2 rows. Move the edge springs out. Hook the eyelet of the double-end bodkin onto the needle head of the first needle at right on the back bed. It helps to pull down slightly on the knitting underneath. Pull the needle up as high as possible so the stitch slides behind the open latch. Push down until the stitch slips over the closed latch onto the double-end bodkin. Move the double-end bodkin so the stitch slides to the other end. Hook the eyelet onto the needle opposite. Slide the stitch onto the new needle by tilting the bodkin up. Do the same with all back stitches. All the needles in working position on the front bed have 2 stitches on them. All the needles now empty on the back bed should be in working position. On the back lock, increase the stitch size to 5 1/2. Knit 1 row, pulling the knitting down. Lock is at the left. Push the front bed up slightly and pull out the knob at the far right side under the bed to lower the front bed. Push the knitting toward the back bed with the yellow tool to lengthen the front bed stitches as much as possible. Crochet off the front bed stitches by inserting the yellow tool with its latch open into the first stitch at right on the front bed. Move the left edge of the first stitch to the second stitch. Insert the tool from above so that the first stitch slides behind the latch. Don't let the second stitch slide behind the latch. Pull the second stitch up through the first stitch until it closes the latch and slides over the second stitch. While pulling the second stitch, always pull in the direction of the next stitch. If it is pulled away from the next stitch, the stitch will pull too tight or drop into the hook of the needle. There is now a single stitch again. Repeat this to the left end of the knitting. Do not worry about the needles on the back bed. Notice that these are not stitches, but are just loops going from one stitch to another and will not unravel. Crochet the last stitch off the left side. Pull the yarn up through to create a loop approximately 30 centimeters long. Break the yarn in the loop. Wrap the end attached to the cone around the NX lever. Pull the other yarn end to tighten the last stitch. To remove the knitting from the machine, use the orange ruler. While pulling down on the knitting, push the needles on the back bed up all the way so the loops fall behind the latches. Slightly push the orange ruler down on top of the needles so the feet are accessible. Angle the orange ruler on the back bed needles with most of the pressure against the rail. Slide the orange ruler across the back bed, pushing the needles out of working position. The needles on the back bed are empty. Repeat with the needles on the front bed, but while pushing the needles up, pull down on the knitting so the stitches are below the latches. Continue as done with the back bed. Release the yarn around the NX lever. Bring it down between the 2 beds and fasten it in the clip. With the orange ruler, bring all of the front pushers out of work position, completely down into their rail. Raise the front bed by pushing in on the knob. At the same time, push up on the lower edge of the front bed with the left hand until it clicks into place. Bring the lock to the right of the bed. The scarf is knit. To do fringes, cut strands of yarn about 1.6 meters long. Fold the strand 3 times in half and thread the side with the loose ends into the double-end bodkin or a darning needle. Hold the small side of the scarf in one hand and put the needle from bottom up through the edge of the scarf. Pull the needle out, but before tightening the fringe, slide the needle through the 4-ply loop. Put fringes as close to one another as desired.